Today. Welcome to my photo editing live stream where you can submit your images before the stream begins and I edit them here for you live. I'm sorry I didn't post this until the very last moment, about an hour ago, that I'd be doing a live stream today for editing. I wasn't sure I could squeeze it in today because I just have a lot on my plate the next few days. But uh, Anyway, I was able to carve out just a little bit of time here. And I want to thank everyone again for sending your images in for me to edit. The goal here is really to show you the tools in Photolab, how to use them, or how I would use them on your images. It's always best to see because a lot of the videos I see and reviews I see on photo editing software in general, the images are all cherry picked and uh, just make the editing process or the software look amazing. And while a lot of the software out there does a good job, DxO is my favorite photo editing software. And um, there's really no better way to demonstrate this than to actually edit your photo here and see what I can do. At least I'm sure after a little while a lot of you will do a lot better than I can do. And also, I like to give my thought process, and you can see my workflow. So I'll try to think out loud what I'm doing as I'm doing it and why. And and also just to give a little suggestions on camera settings or composition. Again, this is all very, very subjective when we get into that realm. So don't take anything as a critique or criticism. It's simply how I would approach a scene and compose a scene from the images that you send in, uh, and my reasons why. But has nothing to do with your vision, how you want your images to be expressed, so to speak. So, but a lot of people have found it helpful when I do offer suggestions and things. So that's why I do that now. I used to try to avoid doing that because again it's not my photo, it's not my vision. But anyhow, since some of you have asked me to do that, I will do that. And I see Garrett's here, good to see you, and Paul and Steve, good to see you guys. All right, so let me pull up the screen. And I think for once I turned everything on and the stream and all the devices are all connected and working together finally. So, first one here looks like from Search, and let's see. So, first thing I always do is I apply a basic preset, which is essentially just optical corrections and denoising, um, and really not much else. Just to give me a baseline, and then next thing I like to do is think about the composition, so that am I going to crop the image or straighten the horizon? What are the elements in the scene that I think are interesting? So let's see. We have a pile of stacked wood here ready to be taken to a fireplace. That's awesome. And then a trail, and then we have looks like maybe bluebells or some kind of spring flower, but they look like bluebells to me. So with with woodland is one of the hardest genres, at least for me, to get a decent shot. And Serge always manages to pull something out. And I've seen a lot of Serge's images that he edits, and he likes a very soft, moody scene a lot of times. And I'm sort of the same way when it comes to woodland. But here we have some morning light kind of coming in from the left. That's the other thing I look for is where's the light? I'm sorry, it's coming in from the right here. Where's the light coming from? And can I make that exaggerate that? So I do see right in here. Compositionally, though, excuse me, I'm going to, I'm not sure I need this area over here. I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna do a quick crop one side or the other. Maybe a vertical, because the left side has the trail. And the right side, if I make this square, the right side here could be just about this pile of wood, but the left side can sort of be more about this trail, and then the pile of wood is just kind of along the way. And I don't like how bright it is over here on the right. So I think I'll go with the left side. And I need to do a little bit of a tilt. It feels just a little bit off to me. So let me just come in about like that. Okay, that feels about right. It's always hard to tell with woodland sometimes because there's really no straight lines or horizon here. And a lot of horizons, if they are there, they're hills and other things. Okay, so let me go back. I'm gonna go, normally I go right to local adjustments, but uh, the scene is pretty even in terms of texture and lighting. So I'm gonna just do a global change and just pull the blacks in, reduce the contrast, because what I'm trying to do is minimize some of the busyness that, all the grass and leaves provide. So just reducing the contrast does that and just make it a little softer. Okay. And then I'm going to I want to accentuate these flowers. So I'm gonna have to do a very selective color. I might be able to go a little darker now that I've reduced the contrast. Okay. And then before I do the flowers, though, let me think about the white balance overall. It's typically in the shadow areas, it's going to be a little cooler and then warmer in the light. So we're already at 78, 89. And when I adjust white balance, I try not to do more than plus or minus 500 Kelvin on the scale. But I might be able to go much further. I think about 1,000 in this case. And then we'll add maybe a little magenta to offset the very strong green overcast. Okay. Because there's a lot of green, right? And the green is going to cause a lot of sort of color cast as well. So just dialing up the magenta and the warmth here, I think gives it more of that morning feel. It might be evening. It's hard to tell. Let's try some different color profiles here. Vivid, natural. And this is a Sony. Oof. I never liked the natural Sony colors. I'm gonna go with vivid here. Or I'm sorry, vibrant. Uh, now I did warm the image up quite a bit, but I want to reduce. Yeah, it feels a little bit too warm. Let me back this off. Okay. So that's about 700 Kelvin. Okay, now that I think the overall mood and color set, I'm going to start to accentuate the other colors that I like selectively. So I'm going to try with the eyedropper. Although, to our eye, these bluebells or whatever they are, these violet color flowers, they have a lot of yellow in them, but I think I can pick a spot here. Let's see if I can just accentuate that a bit. Yeah, that's looking better. Just gonna crank that up. Maybe how about the luminance a little brighter, or maybe I think a luminance where it is fine. Okay, not bad. I'd like to do a little more, so I might have to go into local adjustments. There's a little bit of a green color cast in here. Let's see. Well, I guess not really. When I'm dropping the eyedropper, it over here tells me the range of colors there. I think I'll just shift it just a little bit, just a little more red. And then I'm going to pull back the saturation on the green, maybe a tiny bit. Okay, we're getting there. Let me go back to the reds. I'm sorry, this is kind of a yellow. I'm going to back it off just a little bit as well. Okay, that looks good. All right, I think from here I can do some local adjustments. Um, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the flowers again and just drop the control point right onto the flower. So it's going to pick up mostly these violets. As you can see from the masking, that one is a little bit off. And that's good. I'm going to just tighten that up just a hair. Okay. Okay. And then let's kind of do that everywhere. Let me see up in here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. It's a little bit there. Oh, that one's too much. I might not be able to mask this area too well. Just make it smaller. And I like to use smaller control points uh, rather than just say expanding, all the way out like that. Because I don't want to affect eye areas because it's not quite masking just the flowers. It's going to start masking into the other areas. And I could just tighten this up all the way, but then that would that would not look natural. So that's why I try to minimize the amount of slider that I use. Okay, I think we're good here. So now that I've masked or highlighted the areas that I want to affect, let me see if I can just, if I recall, it was more over here. See if I can saturate those more. I'll stretch this out. Okay. And maybe I can actually push. There we go. So I'm going to push it using the white balance tool. All right, that looks good. Maybe a little bit too much. Right about there. Okay, now I think I got the colors and everything the way I want. I'm going to start messing with the light a little bit. And I'm just going to pull these shadow areas down a little more. So I'm going to tighten up the Luma mask. Maybe just about a 10. And I'm just selecting the darker areas of the scene. Let me see. Yeah, that's better. And down in here. Okay. So let me just try the blacks. Oh, too much. How about the shadows? That's better. Now, a lot of times I'm pulling the shadows, but I like to just kind of leave the highlights a little bit in there. It's not going to affect it too much, but just a touch. Okay. Need a little more here. Okay, I might need to start a new control point because I wanna make this a little more gradual. Let me pull this a little bit more. All right, good. Okay, now uh just gonna add a little more light to the wood over here, just on the right side. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of light off over here. We'll just pull the highlights maybe and the midtones a bit right in there. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my flowers. See if I can maybe just brighten those up a bit more. And a little more magenta. Okay, I'm probably about 90% there. Let me just go back to the global adjustments and see. I'm gonna play with the contrast a bit. Just make the image softer. Make it a little moodier. So I'm effectively messing with the tone curve, right? Okay, so I think that's it. So that's kind of my vision of this photo where uh I kind of like the flowers. I really wanted to accent those so you could see them. And and then, minimize the greens and separate the lighting a little bit more. So it's a very contrasty image. I think if I do okay, I'm just gonna have this so that it's projecting an sRGB and not P3, just in case the colors might look a little off online. Because I'm looking at my screen here. Okay. I think this looks pretty good. I think maybe a little darker on this corner. Let me try local brush. Whoops. Just a control point. And just on the greens. So I'm going to tighten up the mask. Let me make sure I got a greenish. That's better. We'll just do a linear pull. Okay. And back to the global, just a maybe in the blacks, just a slight push. Okay, I'm done. So uh there's the before and after. There's really no need to export this. Uh I think the preview here looks pretty good. And if we just do a split this way. So there's the before. Like I said, I think this right side didn't add anything to the scene. So I just cropped into the left side and then accentuated all of the flowers and separated the lighting a little more. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, thank you, Serge. I hope you like that edit. Okay, I have one here from Brooke. So this is probably some abandoned property somewhere. Let's apply a basic preset. Looks like a space heater because there's a little gas line in here. And what is this? Is this a can? Oh, it's just a plastic wipes. So this kind of image, I see a lot of textures and um, and it's mainly monochromatic, but I do like this sort of pastel-y colors over here and over here. It's very pastel in the background, but in the foreground, we need to get rid of the light down in here because this is mostly just kind of a gray. And I want to do a little perspective corrections because it's, the angle of this shot is, I'm primarily, I love architecture type photography, so these things just annoy me. It's one of my pet peeves is straight lines, right? So I'm gonna do that first and just see where that takes me. Okay, that's okay. And it looks a little weird, because we don't have a straight line in the back, but then this line in the front is straight. So I see this is tilted. So this little excuse me, this space heater is kind of angled forward a little bit off the wall. So that's why I'm getting these weird. So let me do the perspective correction, and then I need to do a horizon because this is the horizon basically. This line here along the baseboard. So I want that line to be straight, and the slats in the wall here more or less. So let me see. Yeah, it's still weird looking, but okay, I'm gonna go with this. And then compositionally, in terms of cropping, this stick is not good. I don't like this bottle of wipes here, but I wanna keep as much of the pastel, so I might actually crop off the left side. So let me see. maybe a 5 by 4, and go all the way to the corner as much as I can. Okay, I like that. All right, so uh, now in this case, there's light coming in from the left side, so I'm gonna exaggerate. I'm gonna see if I can minimize the light down here in the foreground because I really want the eye to go up here to these colors. I kind of lost a little bit over here, but that's all right. And then I'm gonna exaggerate the rust and the red, and I think this pole I got mixed feelings about. I might brush that out. So again, I'm going to start with global adjustments. I don't normally do that, but I just want to get a feel for all of the lighting and then the color. Let's selectively adjust some of the pastels and then these kind of pinks. I stretch this out a little bit. Okay. That was a mistake. Let me pull this in. What's happening is I'm starting to affect the reds in this space heater. So I'm just going to tighten that up a bit. Okay, so let me go to the space heater. Let's select the rusty part, and I'm gonna pull away from the this pinkish color, and let's shift everything a little bit more red. Okay, it's kind of bled in over here on the left, but that's okay. What color do we have down here? Some oranges. I'm gonna shift the oranges just a little more red. All right, now let's just do a little more contrast, tiny bit more micro contrast. All right, that's good. So we got good texture. We're seeing good color in the woods and the pastels, the rust here. I need to separate a little bit more. I might have to do that with local adjustments. And then the lighting down here, I want to correct. It's a little bit too bright for my taste. Let's do a control line. And I'm going to put the eyedropper just on these brighter parts down here. Okay, and I'm going to tighten up the Luma mask a little bit. Just about 5. There we go. And let's just do a linear pull. Okay, that's good. And then we'll just do a control point doing the same thing on the left side here. Just to kind of even things out a bit. That's too much. All right. Okay. Uh, in the last, maybe just pull the highlights here a little bit. Let me do a new control point. Just gonna pull a little bit. Okay, this little steel pipe, it's interesting that this is still pretty clean. I'm gonna see if I can, I'm just gonna do an auto masking here and give that some clear view, push the highlights, just kind of set that out a little bit. All right, we're almost there. Let me just see where we were. Uh, yeah, I think that's good. Um, because black and white would be interesting too. So either way, this color version I think is better. Let's see if we can just maybe pull the colors. I think in this case, I think the vivid works best. And then globally, some of the highlights maybe. That's because I pushed the contrast a bit too much. Let me back that off a little bit. And then we'll just push it just a hair brighter. What does that do? No, I don't like that. Okay. All right, now the white balance. I'm a little late to the party here for white balance. I should have thought of that first. The white balance is pretty good, but let me see if shifting this makes any. Yeah, that looks like an old photo. Just a shift. Just going to exaggerate a little bit. All right. So I think a slight shift cooler would be nicer. Again, this is very, very subjective. And then a slight push to the magenta. Ooh, just, just, just a slight push there. 5, okay. And we were at 4310. Maybe actually, yeah, I think I like it a little bit warmer. All right, we're almost there. We'll add some clear view just to give it a little more bite. Maybe some micro contrast. All right, so the question is now this one piece. It's not too offensive now, but let me see if I can. I think repair is probably not the right tool, but let me just do a little bit at a time. Okay. All right, I think I'm done. Maybe be a little bit of I needed just a little more grit here in the wood. So I'm just going to use a brush, and I have the flow and the opacity way down. I'm going to see if I can just bring that out a little bit gradually with micro contrast. Maybe clear view, just a touch. Okay, a little bit over here. One more. So with each stroke, when I have the flow and opacity low, it applies a very mild adjustment. And then as I keep stroking that area or brushing that area, it gets more and more intense, up to 100%. So I have things set at about 30%. So if I do three brush strokes over the same area, that'll be roughly 100%. So it won't do any more than three brush strokes basically. But I think that's fine. Uh, all right, I think I'm done. So let's just do, let's make this a little bit bigger. So there's my final edit. So there's the before. It's very flat, and the angle from which this was shot is a little bit off. Part of the problem is the way this particular space heater is, kind of not flat against the wall, and that's what's causing this problem for me. Because even after I do a perspective correction, but yeah, I really wanted to bring out the pastels over here and the rust. And then there was just too much light up here in the front, so I got rid of that. And then, of course, just a very gritty look. And I think that, just a simple conversion to black and white could be another option, right? Something like this. Um, but I prefer the color because the pastels, I think, are what kind of make this. It gives a little more to the story about where the space heater was when it was working, right? The pastels or the orange or pinks, whatever color this room was, uh, the color is a big part of the story of this image. All right. Uh, Very nice. Thank you, Brooke, for sending that very interesting image. I wasn't sure what I could pull out of it, but I think a little wider shot to see more of the wall and surroundings would have been would have been really interesting and put context of the space heater of where it was and the story of that room. Because the way this is shot now, to me, it's only about the space heater, really. But I think a wider shot would have been much more interesting and told more of a story about the space heater. Okay, let's go to the next one. And okay, this is a very familiar church. I've seen this from different angles, I think, more to the right and straight on. So with these kind of shots, it's always about the light coming through the windows, right? And there's very little light hitting here, but there is a pretty strong shadow, and it's been underexposed, I believe, to save the highlights of the windows. So that seems to be the intent. But I want to bring light onto this painting and this statue, maybe these chairs. And I'm going to, I don't know, maybe even a black and white would be all right if I can separate those reds and greens in the black and white, but we'll see. Compositionally, I need to let me just start with a basic preset, and let's do a perspective correction, see if that uh, That kinda took a little bit too much. Let's go over here. Okay, that's a little better. I don't like this chair here, but that's alright. And I lost the top of the painting. So maybe a 5 by 4, that may solve not quite. Not quite, but right about there. Let me back off this correction a little bit. So I hate to lose this painting up here. Okay, I think that works. So, I mean, the floor is really interesting here. I hate losing the front of the floor, but I think the paintings and the windows are more interesting than the floor. Okay, so I'm going to bring the highlights in on the windows first. So we're going to do basically maybe I don't I don't think this is a good idea. Yeah, that's not a good idea. Let me do it uh with some control points here. We'll just tighten up the Luma mask. Okay. Okay. Uh and then we'll do I know I want to get this painting kind of lit up, give it some clear view. Yeah, the statue's gonna need its own. I will stay relatively small. And these chairs I like. Let's give it a little push here. Okay. So now it feels like there's a little bit more light coming in from behind the camera or off to farther off to the right. I need to crop just a little bit more. Okay. Okay, that's good. Let me just do a global push here. Go back here. I want to getting a little bit of a shine. Maybe some micro contrast will fix that. Yeah. Probably a color boost wouldn't hurt either. Just a little vibrancy. No, that didn't work. All right, that's not working. I need to get a little more selective. So let me start with just pushing the highlights. I'm looking at this gold rim here. So I'm just pushing kind of the yellows. And then I also like the reds. There we go. Back that off a tiny bit. Okay. Uh, okay, back to this guy. I'm gonna back off and give it a little clear view, some contrast, and then I'm gonna back off these browns just a bit. All right, now I'm gonna add a little bit of light to the right side. Can probably do that with just a control point. Oops, I need a new one because if there's light coming onto the statue and the painting, there needs to be light coming onto that wall. There we go. That looks good. All right, now the floor has some details as well. They've kind of been rubbed out over time, but I'm going to try and bring out some of that with some control points. Maybe just clear view would do the job, some micro contrast. Yeah, there we go. And I think I need a little bit of light over here too. And just to add a touch inside, a little bit on this red. And then just kind of on this wall. Okay. Just a slight crop more. So there's a little bit of the wall because I didn't do a perfect, I backed off the distortion correction just to maintain some of that painting. Now this guy's a little bit low in the frame though. Let me go back to a 4x3. See if I can. Yeah, that's better. Okay, this one I'm going to export because there is some softness here that I think can be corrected with an export because of the optics modules. I assume I did all that. Yeah. Let me just crank that up a little bit. And we're all good here. So export to disk. sRGB. Okay. So we'll wait for that. reset, set that as the reference, compare it with the output. All right, so here's my edit on the left versus the one on the right. And again, all of the little things that I talked about along the way, I'm glad I was able to bring back most of the floor down here because this is kind of an interesting, because at first glance, yeah, I didn't notice there was print here, but as I was editing, I was like, oh, actually, there's some texture in here, and it turned out to be some print. Uh, and then obviously, I needed to bring more light here and onto the painting, but it was important that I added light to this wall that kind of motivates all of the lighting that's hitting the painting and this bust here, whatever this is, and the chairs. So I think that looks pretty good. So if we do sort of a just a swipe, I think, and of course we were able to maintain all of the details in the stained glass. But now I think, yeah, that accomplished everything I wanted to do with that image. All right, very good. Let's go to the next one. And this one is from Darko. Well, this already been edited. So, okay. Uh, it's an interesting shot. I like the processing. It's a very contrasty and muted color. Yeah, it's a nice edit there, Darko. Very different than, well, no, that's someone else. But yeah, it's a very limited color palette too, right? We have kind of some yellows and reds, and then just the grays and the textures. So even the grays are kind of tinted a little bit red to match her. There's a spot of green here. That's a nice accent. So yeah, and I really like this vertical crop. So yeah, it's a nice edit, Darko. I don't need to do anything to this. It's pretty much good the way it is. And this is an interesting idea, sort of the cinematic idea of using basically three colors in your palette and then working with those three colors. And I primarily see this red, yellow, and green here and nothing else. And the greens are very subtle. So looks good. Um, let's go to next one here from John. Okay. So this house we've seen before, or whatever this is. Uh, let's see. Okay. So again, the lighting here, it's basically midday. So, and this is relatively wide. I mean, you're at 75 millimeters, so there's a lot of compression here, but you're so far away that we're getting a lot of negative space here in the sky. So I think I'm going to get rid of the rolling hills here in the foreground and just focus on right in here. So maybe a wide crop. So let me just get a basic preset out of the way. We'll go right to a crop. Let's try 16 by 9 first. Well, how does that look if I do keep the fence and the hills? I don't know. That doesn't work quite for me. So we'll just come in a little tighter. Maybe, maybe right there. Yeah, I guess I got to keep the hills and get rid of the sky because we have a little bit of a foreground here, then the midground where the subject is, and then of course the sky and trees back here. I'm just trying to create some layers for this image. Uh, okay, so we have this. Let me just dig into this a bit. So it's still a little bit early because in the spring, it looks like because stuff just is not filled out quite yet. But let me go to see where the reds are. There's a little bit of red there in the center, so we'll exaggerate that, and then kind of this blue green. I think the rest I'm just gonna have to work with the lighting. So let's see if we can bring out some of the texture in this stone. 'Cause there's not really any other colors in here. It's sort of these browns or oranges. We'll give that a little boost. And that's about it there. How about these? Let's tighten that up. Let's give the greens a little bit of a boost. All right, that feels a little better because it was a little bit flat. And then we'll do some local adjustments for the building. See if I can tighten up this mask. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do some micro contrast and clear view. So I really want to bring out that stonework a little bit. And push the highlights a bit. Okay, that's good. It's a little exaggerated, but that's okay. Let's do the sky. We'll do a control line here. And let's try clear view first. Maybe some micro contrast and a pull on highlights. There we go. Maybe give it a little bit of saturation with some vibrancy. Just to match the color intensity of the greens and reds that I did. Okay, globally, I think from here, I just need a little push on the shadows, maybe. Let's try a little push on the blacks. A slight pull on the highlights. Just to lower the contrast a tiny bit. Maybe, no. I think that's enough right there. Plus or minus 15 there. The white balance is just a tiny bit. Let me just add a little magenta maybe. Okay. How about a little more warmth? Just about 400 Kelvin right there. Okay. We'll export that one. I think that looks good. So let's reset it. And let's just do a wipe, I guess. So there's the before, and it's a raw image, so it's always going to be a little bit flatter, lower contrast, less saturation. And that's why we edit our photos, right? So also the crop, I think, makes a difference. It kind of just keeps sort of that negative space nice and tidy. Because going back, there's just too much negative space on the top and bottom. There wasn't much going on over here on the left side, so I cropped that out. And that's the final edit. So before and after. I think that came out nice. Okay, let's see what else we got. Let's see, we did that one. All right. So we have one here from, and thank you, John, for sending that one. This one is from Bilchin. Bilchan or Big Han. So we have a vertical, looks like a smaller cruise ship. Um, okay, we have this person here. I like these windows. I would have liked a much tighter shot myself because everything around here is kind of distracting. So I'm gonna go. I really like what's going on just right here. See all these ports, windows and holes here, and the lifeboat, our lifesaver things here in the front. And then we have a couple of doors and this little firebox, which kind of juxtapose these circles, right? And then just a person here standing on the deck is just sort of an accent to the overall, I would say, geometry of the scene or all the geometric things going on in the scene. And then everything else, this is mildly interesting, but everything else to me is a distraction to what's going on right here. So I'm gonna flip the script here. Let me do a basic preset and go with a horizontal. Let's try 16 by 9 again. Well, yeah, I think I think right in here, and we need a little perspective correction. Okay. So this is going to be a really tight crop, I think. So I like the shadow of this door right here, but then let me see what this looks like. Ah, I don't know. What if we go even tighter? This is too wide. It has all the elements I like in it, but now it's just too wide. What if I do just manually crop in? All right. So I'm going to look at the overall scene again and see if there's a reason to keep any of these other elements in the shot. I don't think so. I think I'll just go with this. Uh, Maybe a slight tilt. Okay. Yeah, that's got to stay the way it is. All right, I'm going to go with this. Now, just curious if, yikes, I really like this corner here. This corner needs a little work. So let's just brighten her up a little bit first. Just the face. Okay. And I like this yellow in here. So I'm going to exaggerate that. Just push that color. How about these light things? I'm going to tighten up let me tighten up the chroma mask just a hair. Okay. I don't really need to be this big. Okay. And then this is a nice accent in here, a little tighter on the chroma. Give that a little boost. And these windows, just a little boost here with some clear view. Uh, what's inside here? Oh, man. I need to, let me just give it a little more bite. No, that's pretty good, but just a little bit more bite. Maybe some micro contrast. Yeah, that did it. And Let's see the shadows. Let's pull the blacks in a little bit, push the shadows. All right, let me look at my crop again. I'm still not sure about this crop because this is interesting. This really tells a lot of the story, this little symbol here. So maybe I think I'll go with this because this is a big piece of the image. It really gives context to the ship and everything else. So I think that works. What I just have to do is just kind of apply the same sort of yellowy boost up here and up there. Let's see if we can do a little bit with the sky since we're going to use it. Tighten up the chroma and push the clear view. Maybe get it a little bit brighter with some contrast. Okay. There's a little bit of haloing here, so I need to back this off a little bit. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna go back to the crop. The crop is still an issue for me. If I go a little higher, I mean, if we do a standard square crop, no, not square. 4 by 5 by 4. Yeah, 5 by 4. Okay. I try to stick to standard ratios whenever possible. I think that works because the sky just being on the left side didn't work. I think it's good that we go over here. So let's extend our uh our sky a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna export this and we'll do a comparison. Okay, so yeah, my edit here on the left, I think that works. So yeah, I really wanted to bring out the colors of the lifesavers here and a little pop. I love this door. This is an image right here, all by itself. This door with this logo. But just from this angle, I don't think I could have got that to work. And it'd be so cropped in, there wouldn't be hardly any pixels left. And then Yeah, I think that works. So that took a little while to get to, but there's the before. What was bothering me here is just all of these cables, and it just is so out of balance for me. I don't like this distracting street lamp or whatever that is. Uh, so this horizontal crop, it just is a little more balanced, and it still maintains all of the story with this logo here, and then the geometry or geometric shapes, all down in here with the circles and the square doors, and this one little accent here. But okay, uh, boy, really tough image. That was a tough image in terms of composition for me. Um, because I like tight shots, but then I think the vertical it just was too heavy on the bottom. Anyway, that was a cool shot though. Okay. All right, let's see. Robin sent in an eagle shot. So we did this let's edit this, apply basic preset, and we have an all-in-one with a wow, a 4/3 lens. Man, I used to have this lens. I gave it away basically, but I still have my 50 to 200 f2.8. That's an awesome lens. But this is surprisingly good. Um, so we caught a fish. We need to bring up the shadows here, and we'll just do a little bit of a crop. Let's see if a square will fit. It kind of fits, yeah, that works. And then I don't know if just this smart lighting helps a little bit. Just a little bit of push on the shadows, and we'll do some local adjustments. See if we can bring some of the highlights back in. And then we'll do the eyes. Give it a little boost and clear view. Maybe a little boost in color. Same on the beak. And we'll do the same for the talons. Then a little bit of extra light on the feathers. Just gradually push those, give it some micro contrast. And then I think I'll do a little bit more work on the wings. Let me see. I like this corner. So we're going to give that some micro contrast. Maybe a little clear view and a slight boost in color. So just push the vibrancy a bit. And then on the right wing, maybe just a little extra boost there. Definitely some clear view and micro contrast. And a slight push of shadows here. With some micro contrast. Okay. Yeah, I think we're good. So let's export this. and see what we get. Really excellent shot of this eagle, though. Perfect settings. Really interesting lens choice. I'm surprised you got it with that lens. Uh, all right, so we'll reset this. So there's the before. Let me zoom in, and then there's the after. So really didn't need a lot of work, and plus I'm used to doing bird photos, so I was able to get through it pretty quickly. I might have add a little more micro contrast right in here, but for the most part, that's how I would edit this guy. All right. Oh, and I see Brooke just joined. Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. Um, as you know, I do these streams, you know, every week, and um, being a member is a great way to support the streams. It helps me out a lot, and it's just 99 cents. I wasn't a big fan of doing memberships in the beginning, but uh, a lot of people asked me to set them up, so I set up just the basic 99 cent uh, membership, and it is greatly appreciated. That and subscribing and thumbs up and all of that, the usual stuff. All right, so thank you, Robin. Very nice shot. And let's see, I have to get the optics module. So we have a business here. So, yeah, it's an auto repair shop probably, or a body shop, but most doesn't look like it's open anymore though. I say that because there's no cars. Usually body shops and auto repair shops, they have cars all over the place if they're open. This one doesn't look open and it's boarded up pretty well. What does that say? New car warranty protect. I don't know. Maybe it is open for business, but it doesn't feel like it. So we need to do a perspective correction. Uh, just to see if we can do that. Yep, that looks good. Whoops. Oh, apply basic preset first. I'm sorry. And then do perspective here. Let's see that's pretty extreme. What happened? I see. Okay, so let's go wider. And yeah, that works. I don't need this shadow though in the front. Mm. So I'm gonna back this off about 50% and see if I can get rid of that shadow. Okay. So when it comes to the colors, so when you do architecture, you have to be very, very conscious of the pitch and yaw of your camera, make sure it's not tilted up or down, left or right, uh, to make sure that the lines are straight. And then when you do perspective corrections, they don't look too wonky because when I did a full-on perspective correction, the problem I'm having here is this roof line is now one side is longer than the other. So I had to back it off to kind of mitigate that sort of distortion. Okay, that looks okay. So this image is very flat because we don't really have any kind of depth or any, yeah, we don't really have any depth. that I can work with. There's nothing in the foreground. We have everything here in the middle, then maybe this tree in the sky can be sort of the background, but we really still have 2 dimensions, so the image feels a little bit flat. Uh, so we're gonna bring out let me just do a spot check on black and white. That's got potential. I mean, I always try to do color when I can, unless, I go out and intentionally take pictures for black and white. Otherwise, color, let's go with this natural color. So you have the blues here. Gosh, these signs are relatively new, so this place must be open for business. You just don't get a lot of business. But this is interesting right here. I think a tight shot right in here would have been nice, but I don't want to crop in that much because there's just not enough detail here, really. But a nice tight shot right here and a little bit more of this sign would have been good. What's throwing me off is there's not really a front door to this building. There's just this garage entrance. Ah, man. All right, so we're gonna go super gritty. Uh, so I just need to work with just the global adjustments. And let's go to the colors, back those off a bit. Maybe just go a little bit muted. And then locally, I'm gonna fix the windows up. I may go back and accent some of the reds. Let's see if I can bring the windows out just a bit more. Okay. All right. Uh, that's fine. That's fine. Almost looks like the old style HDR, doesn't it? But I want to accent some of the reds now, particularly this red on this little gas pump. And then let's try this green. Maybe not. Maybe maybe a little bit and the yellows. Okay. And desaturate this a bit more. Okay. Let me see. Let me see how bad I messed this up. Yeah, we need to back off a little bit. Something. Maybe go reverse. Okay. Pull the color back again. Every time I increase the contrast, the saturation has to be adjusted. Let's go back to these reds. I'm going to back that off a little bit. Okay. And then let's just put a dab of light on this sign. Tighten up the luma. Okay. Dab of light there. And then I'm going to fix the vertical. So I go back to perspective. I'm just going to, the up down, it needs to be just a little bit more front, facing the front. There we go. Then we can tighten this. Let's try 16 by 7. Right there. Because I want this, the point of this roof to be the center. And we'll come down. Let's balance. I'm not sure I can really get this centered the way I want. A slight tilt. So I'm trying to balance this dark area with the sky and then put this building right in the center. It's a little off center because there's no door. If there was a door, I would center on that, but there's no door. But I'm gonna go with that. So let's export this one. We'll wait for that. And maybe just a slight there. Let's do that. Okay. So let's reset. Well, actually, so there's the before. And it's an interesting building. If I were taking this picture, obviously I would kind of center towards the front main entrance, which is this. Whenever I go to a building, the front door or the main doors are always where I try to get centered. And then I go from there and look at the rest of the composition to see, how I can make the rest of the composition balance with the front door. But if you look at the original image, clearly you're standing over here, right about here, and then pointing the camera a little bit to the left. So we're getting sort of a yaw type perspective distortion. And there's also a slight pitch distortion based on the way these lines are angling up to the left. So uh, Anyhow, whenever I do architectural, I'm very conscious of my position, the position of the camera, and trying to minimize all of the perspective distortions that can happen. And that's just again, that's a very subjective choice. Of course, I've tried different angles and perspectives with architecture, but from this shot, there's just not enough. Uh, I don't feel like this was a creative choice. In other words, I think this is more of a uh, maybe you couldn't stand more to the left side, right? Maybe that wasn't an option and you were blocked. But I feel like, yeah, if you could have moved over a little bit closer, you'd have been a little bit more to the left. This would have gave you this shot uh, with less distortion. But okay, I think that edit came out pretty nice overall. I kind of like how this came out. Um, Kind of a gritty but very bold colors and muted at the same time. Meaning I just wanted to accent the reds and greens here. Like I accented these greens and these reds, and then I muted the sky. I muted all of the other colors, the yellows and uh, whatever else was there. It's really just yellows and greens by pulling, really just the yellows, I mean. Okay, very nice. All right, last one here. Let's see what we got. We have a seashore with some wind, whatever, wind turbines, this pier, this marker here. Uh, Let me look at the details in here. There's a tattoo shop. Not much going in the sky. It's a little bit hazy. And then these wind turbines, these rocks. Okay. So I think again, I'm gonna go super wide on this. A lot of wide crop. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm in a wide crop type mood, but I feel like a super wide would look good here. And then we'll make the water darker and richer. Warm up the image. It needs to be warmer just a bit, just to feel a little bit hotter. And then I think I go right to local adjustments on this one. Maybe just a control line. The blacks and just a clear view. Pull the contrast down. Okay. Maybe a slight shift. Okay. And then let's do the same thing with the sky. I doubt there's any clouds up there. Yeah, but do that and a slight pull. And let's bring the highlights in down here. Wow, there's actually some textures in here. They were just kind of blown out that I couldn't see them. So what might be better is actually for this tool will probably work pretty well. A little bit more. Okay. And then let's do these windows. Okay. And then let's do, all right, so that building is fine. Question is, should I go a little tighter if we really need to see that much on the left? That's better. And then let's just do a couple of spots of light in here. Just going to exaggerate some of the light. Make it a little warmer, maybe. Okay. Get rid of that one. Okay, we're almost there. Uh, maybe just a hint of on the blues, just a little bit of a push. Let me do it with a brush. No, brush not going to work. Let's do a control point. Talking about the blue paint right in here. So I'm going to tighten up the chroma and the luma and just try to get to the blue. There we go. Yeah, that helps. All right. So how'd we do? Yep. Let's export that and just do a quick comparison. So let's reset it. Where's my line? Oh, there it is. Okay. So that's the before. So huge negative space top and bottom, right? Like just unnecessary. And then a nice tight crop, nice and wide. And then basically just increasing the contrast, right? So making the water a little darker and the rocks with some speculars, and then bringing some of because the colors got a little washed out because of the bright sun. So just brought the blues back or the blue paint here and some of the texture on the siding, and that's what we ended up with. And I think that looks pretty good. All right. That was the last one. So that was awesome. I think yeah, there were some pretty decent edits today. Uh let me go to the chat section. See how you guys are doing. Whew, man, we're still a couple hours in. Let me bring my window around so I can read the chat. So again, thank you, Brooke, for your support. I appreciate that. And I see Jeff's here, Paul's here. Paul was saying keep the top. Yeah, so I did end up doing that. That's cool. We were kind of on the same page there when we were doing that ship photo with the girl walking. Let's see. I'm reading these kind of backwards. You guys are kind of going between each other. Nice filmic color palette onto that. That was probably the one Darko sent in, right? That was already edited. That's a typical what do you call it? Cinematic thing, right? That people do in film is they try to work with a very minimal color palette. And not necessarily for the whole movie, but scene to scene to scene, they may change the color palette. Easy example is like that movie, The Matrix, right? It was when they were in the Matrix, it was kind of this greenish hue, very limited color palette to when they went to the real world. Then we went back to a normal, standard color. And, still gritty, right? Just to kind of give that dystopian feel to the future. But then you guys are talking about AI masking. Yeah, the AI masking, yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat here, where sometimes it's really good for a lot of things. Like I was doing some butterflies and it masked out the butterflies perfectly. I ended up oh, excuse me. Because I took a picture of some butterflies. I don't know if you guys saw my Flickr, but the background was terrible. It was like just some pipes or a broken window, whatever. So I was thinking, okay, what if I change the background? It highlighted the butterflies perfectly, but then when I said generate some flowers in a forest, it was like it was a train wreck. So I just ended up not using those pictures. Nick 8 can stretch the radial mass. Yes, I do need to do a video on Nick 8. I think I'm just waiting for everybody else to get theirs out of the way. Well, truth is, I'm slow. I'm usually the last one to the party when it comes to doing reviews and things like that. Um, See, guys are going between, and then Micah, does Photolab not allow you to stretch the radial mass to elliptical mass? Or is that, yeah, you can't stretch them in Photolab 8. But, with the chroma and luma masking, it's okay. It'd be nice to stretch them, right? The more flexibility we have, the better. But it's mitigated a lot because we can adjust the chroma and luma masks of the radials, and that pretty much keeps it from being a real problem. If we didn't have that kind of control, then it would definitely be a problem. Uh, oh, Steve, man, I hope you're okay. Just recovering maybe from something. I hope you're okay, Steve. Wow. Gareth said, I just sent an edit. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's see what's come in since I started. Um, okay, some edits that you guys did. So here's pause edit. Wow, that's really similar. You kept more detail in the rocks, which I like. It's a little bit crispier than I would have done. So what I did is, I pulled the micro contrast down to kind of minimize this sort of grittiness that I was getting. I mean, if you like the grittiness, that's fine. But for me, I wanted to reduce that grittiness because it looked a little too over sharpened initially. And then, yeah, you pulled the highlights a tiny bit here. Very, very similar edit. I think you did a better job on the sky. Ooh, I see a sensor spot right here. I think that's a sensor spot or a spot on the lens. Yeah, either way. But yeah, this is looks like a little bit taller crop, so 16 by 9 instead of 16 by 7. And you kept all of the wind turbines, whereas since I went super thin, like 16 by 7, uh, I felt like it's a little tighter would have been all right, for me. And then here, oh wow, look at that edit. That's beautiful. Really beautiful. Um, you brightened up the entire image, but then you were able to retain a lot of the details here in the floor that I was looking for. And you did the perspective correction also. So yeah, this is nice. I kept a little bit more shadow behind the statue. So in this scene, the lighting looks like it's much larger and coming from behind the camera rather than from the side. In my edit, I wanted the light to come in from the right side, so that's why I lit up this wall, and then only the front of this guy rather than the entire statue. With this edit, it looks like the light's coming in from behind the camera, and it's a much bigger source. So, just different approach. It's always interesting to see. Um, that's cool. So overall, it's a brighter scene. I can't even remember what I did. Let me see. I mean, exactly what I did. So I kept mine darker. Yeah, clearly. Clearly kept mine a lot darker. Okay. And this one I'll have to do next week, but very nice picture there. And that's it. So, I mean, I got a few minutes. I can do this one since it's just one. If you're still here, hopefully you're still here. I'll download that one. We'll edit that one real quick. That's not a tough edit. So we'll go back to the library. Should be in here now somewhere. Here we go. So apply basic preset and we'll do a nice wide crop. Not much to do on this one. Let's do a 16 by 9 and just come in a little bit like that. And then we'll pull the eyes in just a bit. A little bit on the beak. And then we'll just add some micro contrast to the feathers. Let me tighten up the luma. Like so. And then a slight pull on the highlights. And I think the rest of the image is fine. It's a nice low perspective. Uh, so let's export that. Okay, so let me get this. So basically, 16 by 9 crop and a little more details on the bird itself. So if we do, let's just do a zoom. But you can see that the optical corrections and things kicked in, and obviously the noise reduction. There's a little bit of chroma noise and stuff in here. But I always like to add a little micro contrast sometimes to the feathers just to make them stand out or separate a little better. And then the eye, a little brightening, then the beaks, and the talons are fine. Uh, maybe a little contrast on that would have been good, but I think, yeah, overall, we went from sort of a little bit soft image with some noise to a nice crisp, image of this bird. And I think the wider crop works. Obviously we could have went a lot tighter and just got the bird in the shot, but I think the overall scene is kind of interesting with this, even with this splash here. Uh, if I had to, I would, if you wanted to, you could brush that out pretty easily like that. And then you would have this shot. So, couple options, right? I didn't mind that thing over there, that blob, but it is a little cleaner without it. Okay. Um, and let's see. That's it. Pretty short on the text today. They're not sensor spots, they're seagulls. Okay. Well, what I was referring to on your picture, let me show you. Uh, Tim is asking, how did you get rid of just one control point? Okay, I'll see if I can answer that. Where was that shot? I think it was the seascape, right? Let me look at your edit again. Yeah, there's a sensor spot right here. Oh, there's a sensor spot right here, I believe. So if I exaggerate, let's see if I can make it show because it's right here, right there. I don't know if I can. It's very, very subtle, but there's a round grayish point right there. I don't know if I can make it stand out more. Oh, there we go. Now you should be able to see it. Uh, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, right there. Okay. And then as when it comes to control points, I can add one here, over here, and down here, for example, right? So what I can do is I can just use the mouse to select one and delete it, or select this one down here and delete that. Or I can just go over here and I can hide it, or I can just delete it. So if I have 3 control points here, or 4, I'll add another one, some more over here. When I highlight one, I can see the 4 that the first one is for, and then I can select this one and I can see the 4 that that one's for. And then I can select it with a mouse and delete individual ones. I can even delete the first one and keep this one and fix that sensor spot, for example. Well, anyway. Okay. Uh, let's see if there were any other questions, and then we can call it. Um, no, I think that's it. So that was an awesome session. I'm sorry to, like I said, I'm sorry again for the short notice. And I'll be back again next week for another photo editing stream. So you can use the same link uh, from this week to next week to submit your images. That doesn't change. And so you can submit them anytime. It's just a matter of uh, whether or not you want to submit one of my images. You won't know what image to edit because a lot of times I give you my image to edit. And until I post the live stream, you're not going to be able to download my image to edit. But okay, that's it for today. Thanks so much for joining me. It's great seeing everybody. And I'll be back again probably Sunday, very likely Sunday for a regular photo chat live stream, and then Tuesday for a shopping stream. But you can always use my affiliate links anytime. I have a 15% coupon for DxO, so you can definitely use that. And you can even save 15% on Nick Collection 8 if you haven't bought any DxO products before. You can use that coupon code. So it's for new customers, that coupon code. So if it's the first time getting DxO Photolab, and just to be clear, because a lot of times I don't get credit for the sale, is you have to use the link to click to the site that I have down below. Just using the coupon code alone doesn't give me the commission. So you have to use the link, but it doesn't matter. Either way, I can recommend DxO Photolab 8. Nick Collection is for more creative types. It's kind of fun if you like that stuff. And then Pure Raw 5 for people that like to use their own editing software, Affinity, Lightroom, Luminar, etc. But you want the processing and optical corrections that Pure Raw 5 can deliver. You can just get that module and forget about Photolab 8. But Photolab 8 includes Pure Raw. Anyway, I've said enough. You guys have a great weekend. I'll see you again